Welcome to the Mindful Muscle Podcast. My name is Paul Klingen, and I'm your host. I'm a former advertising professional turned fitness coach where I use my E4 fitness method to help people with their training, nutrition, recovery, and mental performance. You'll hear all the different tips, tricks, and research that I use for myself and my clients to see results in those fields. I'll also bring on experts so that we can deep dive into specific topics. Ultimately, the goal is to help you take your fitness to the next level so that you can live the life that you want to live. So buckle up, take some notes, and let's roll. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mindful Muscle Podcast. My name is Paul Klingen, and I am your host. And today, I got a hot one for you guys. This podcast is going to dive a little bit into Tim Grover's book, Winning, The Unforgiving Race to Greatness. And this is one of the first sections in the book where he addresses the 13 definitions of winning. And I wanted to make this podcast with a little bit of a fitness spin. So this is the transformation definition. And I take all 13 of his definitions and use them in a health and fitness lens, a physical and mental transformation. And one of the reasons why I wanted to create this, one, is because this book is amazing. I remember reading Relentless in 2018. Being super inspired, and it was really the catalyst, or one of the catalysts for how I went to go and approach Down Dog Athletics, which was my first business. And it's really cool. Now, 3 years later, I'm reading the updated book, and I'm seeing how my mindset has shifted, and I'm seeing how I approach challenges and winning and transformation and things that are hard and quitting and all these things. And so I'll dive into those 13. But before I do, if you are a former athlete, and former athlete we can loosely define, but think of it as being athletic minded, still at some point in your core, somewhere in your core, you believe that you're capable of more than what you're doing. So maybe you're fed up with, putting SpaghettiOs in your sports car, which is your body, right? So you're not eating how you should. Maybe you're fed up with anxiety-filled Mondays. Podcast is coming out today on a Monday. If you feel like you are getting smacked in the face because you wasted the weekend away and you just feel like you're super behind every single Monday, this is for you. This is for, like I said, athletic-minded individuals, former athletes that want to optimize not only their physique, but their mental performance. So I've created a private group. It is a free group. The trainings that will go on within it are lessons, exercises, principles that have helped myself and my clients transform. And it's only 3 weeks long. So it is not like it's like training camp, right? It's there for a certain period of time, and it's meant to get you ready for the season. But instead, it's meant to get you ready for your transformation. So that said, I'm going to dive into the 13 definitions of transformation using Tim Grover's Winning as kind of the foundation, the putty, we'll call it. So winning is inside all of us, but very few people ever climb that mountain. Same can be said for a physical and mental transformation. So real quick, if you aren't familiar with Tim Grover, basically here's a quick, too long didn't read version. He was Michael Jordan's trainer for 15 years. He's a keynote speaker. Those big events that have 15, 20, 30,000 people, he'll go and keynote those. He'll be the thing of like Beyonce or whatever, like Kanye, whoever is the headliner at a festival, he'll be the headliner of motivational speaking, for lack of a better term. But he's worked with athletes like Dwayne Wade, obviously the late Kobe Bryant, but then also work with different people in the business space, elite level, CEOs and high-powered executives. So few people have been as close to peak performance as him. So like I said, when he released this book, I was like, I got to read this. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I eat up, and this is what I want to take, internalize, synthesize, and then pass along to my clients, because he's helping people win. He's helping people be as successful as they can be as athletes. Their job is to win. Now, my job is when you come into my program, when you come into contact with me, I'm going to use my E4 Fit method to help transform you physically and mentally so that you can perform better at work, so that you can have better relationships, and so that ultimately you can live the life that you want to live. And when you're an athlete, you are training for your sport. When you are not an athlete, but you are still athletic minded, maybe you're training for, let's say, like a marathon or a Spartan race or something that you are training to have some sort of performance in, but your paycheck, your livelihood doesn't depend on that. So at this point, you're training to have a higher quality of life, which then allows health and fitness to really serve as a catalyst for everything else. If that is the foundation that you need, or that is the foundation that you have, and it is rock solid, how you do one thing's how you do everything. So if that is good, other areas are going to be good. If that's fallen apart, if that foundation's cracked, if there's a bunch of spider webs in different areas, right, where else is that showing up in your life? So I wrote these out, and what I want you to do, if you haven't read the book, just think that transformation is in the place of winning. So when I go and say transformation makes you different, different scares people, know that in the book, he's saying winning makes you different, different scares people, but I'm just changing it for the purposes of this podcast and for what I do. So I had a lot of fun writing this, and hopefully you guys enjoy it too. I will, warn you that it will probably challenge you. It will probably make you uncomfortable. It will probably seem extreme. But that's why you got to realize that so many people see a transformation and then regress back to where they are, right? You can use the data that, so many people gain their weight back because of diets, or so many people go and achieve this and then fall off. Ultimately, people fall off because they get that sense of winning and then they ease off the gas, right? And so that's all the principles that we're going and talking about right now. So number one, transformation makes you different. Different scares people. So the angle with this is that you will stand out from the group that you're in when you are on your journey and pursuing it to the best of your ability. Even if your group, your friend group, your work group, whoever you're in, is into fitness, say meditation, personal development, whatever it is, you're going to seem different because you are now elevating. You're elevating your frequency. You're operating at a higher vibration. And in your efforts to change, you'll inevitably deal with resistance. Obviously resistance from yourself as you go and change because you're moving out of what is comfortable, but you're going to get a lot of resistance from other people, right? Different scares people. So whether it's haters, people literally saying like, you suck, you can't do it. People telling you that, oh, you look great already. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you want to improve? You want to get better, right? Because they've accepted that their situation is, the best that it's going to be, and that what's the point? And you haven't. Or people will simply tell you like, hey, you need to relax. Like, it's fine. It's cool. Just do this. Just do that. Right? And so your changes, which is really you breaking away from that group, will scare people. You're basically like this bait ball of fish, and you're going out and being like, boom, I'm going to go do my own thing, which in the animal kingdom probably isn't a smart idea, but in this situation, it's very smart. So what it's going to do, though, it's going to subconsciously trigger them and force them to confront the fact that they're not growing. They're not moving out beyond, this ball of comfort. And so what you need to realize is that in their attempt to bring you back into your old habits, it's really an attempt to make them feel better about themselves. So a good example of this is, think back to high school when you or your friends or whoever are toilet papering a house, right? TPing a house. You're going to feel much more emboldened when people are doing it with you. As soon as other people start to be like, no, this isn't cool, like, let's go, and you're the last one holding the TP, you feel like a dummy, right? You feel like an idiot. So that's what's happening, but at a friend, a circle, a tribe, a group level. Hopefully, on the other side, you're going to have people also supporting you. That's your squad. That's your ride or dies. That's your team. That's like your inner circle. And when you have someone that's doing that with you, someone that also wants to be different, that's when things get fun. That's when you're, locked in this race. Pretend you're in like a NASCAR and you're driving and you look to the right and you guys are racing, but at the same time, it's not a competition against each other. It's a competition against yourself. And you guys just give each other that nod. It's like, all right, we're on our shit. Let's go. Next is that transformation wages war on the battlefield in your mind. You will want to quit almost every day, especially in the start. And even as you get things going and you're doing really well, it's going to cross your mind, what if I just stopped? What if I just quit? Right? So when it gets hard, you will doubt whether or not you are capable. You will get some sort of imposter syndrome. You will say, who am I to do this big, great thing? And when you don't see progress, you're going to wonder if it's worth it. You're going to be like, man, all this work, nothing to show for it. What's the point? What's the point? I should just quit. What's the point? I've been there. Do not quit. When you have to face your fears, the things that really scare you, the things that really challenge you, it can be crippling, right? That is activating your fight or flight. And one of the fight or flight things that our brain will have us do is literally freeze. That's the whole thing of like when an animal freezes because it is so scared. Like if you ever scare your dog and it just freezes up, that is because you have activated the most reptilian part of the brain. And that's what's happening to you when you are faced with a choice or faced with an opportunity to face your fears. You don't do anything. You think about it. You just stop and you don't take action. And so all those negative thoughts are clawing for you to come back down that mountain that you're trying to climb, that transformation mountain. But in order for there to be a battle, right? Because I said transformation wages war on the battlefield in your mind, there needs to be a worthy adversary, right? There needs to be a worthy opponent. And this is your purpose. This is your reason why you are climbing that mountain. This is where you show your courage, your grit, your toughness, your relentlessness. And I say courage, not confidence, because like I said, if you're afraid of something, you don't just confidently walk into the battlefield. Like you're like, man, I'm scared, but I'm going to be courageous here. Think of Jon Snow. Think of any movie where there is some sort of soldier. Like they're to some degree like afraid, but they're being courageous in that situation. And so it is your choice to step into that fear and embrace that discomfort. And this is what makes every single day a battle. You are at war with the weaker version of yourself, the person that you are trying to leave behind, the person on the other side of the bridge as you're trying to cross that bridge that's saying, come back over here. It's safe over here. And you're like, no, I'm not going back over that bridge because I know what's over there and it sucks. And every time you win this daily battle, your strength grows. Every time you lose, those claws tighten the grip around your ankle and pull you back down to the hell that you're escaping. We'll call it number one because everything in the book is number one, but this is number three down the list. Transformation is the ultimate gamble on yourself. So the cool thing about transformation is that it's a transfer of power. When you are stuck, you give your power away. So here's how this works. You are powerless because of your metabolism, your genetics, your boss, your significant other, your dog, your sore finger. Whatever excuse you can think of, you give away your power to change because something or someone is holding you back. It's not your fault. If that wasn't the situation, you would be making the changes. But that person, they have all the power. They're the ones that are holding you back. Can't do anything about it. As soon as you get to the point to where you realize that everything that happens to you is your fault, that's when the game changes. When you own your power, you gamble on yourself because you are taking 100% responsibility for the outcome. That's why I say everything that happens to you is your fault, even if it is not in your control. Lightning strikes and hits your car. You control how you respond to it, right? So everything that happens to you, once it is in your control, is your fault. So every time you invest in yourself, lay the chips down on that blackjack table, you are betting on yourself to do the work, to extract the value out of whatever program it is that you're doing to make that transformation, to make that huge change. And I'm here to tell you, and you probably know this, the value is always more than you realize. You go in thinking, and I hear this all the time, oh, I think I could lose like 15 to 20 pounds. And then they lose 40, and they're like, wow, I did not think that I could do that. And it's this limiting belief that you have as you're climbing the mountain. You're like, oh man, like I bet the view is going to be decent. Homie, I'm here to tell you that the view is much better than you realize. And if you go and bet on yourself, you're going to get to see that view. So the next one, transformation isn't heartless, but you'll use your heart less. Ooh, this one is good. So from a young age, we are conditioned to make everyone else feel better. There is no finer example than this than participation trophies. Or even just thinking like as a kid, you got your toys and you got to share with them. Someone's upset, you got to share your toys. You got to make everyone else feel included. And don't be wrong, all for including people, but when you misplace that empathy, it can cause you to slow down your momentum so that others can catch up. And what you end up doing in a health and fitness standpoint, nutritionally, exercise, whatever it is, you sabotage yourself to make others feel better about themselves. So this one's really tied to the first one where we talk about being different scares people. So you don't want to be different, so you make your light a little bit less bright, right? You think that, okay, if I dim my light to be as dim as everyone else's, that'll make them feel better. Ultimately, it's not your job to sedate someone else's pain. It is not your job to make them feel better. They are in charge of that. So before you go and think that, I'm this heartless guy, let me realign you for a second. Leading others, being an example of what is possible, is one of the truest forms of service. Like, that is truly caring about someone when you tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, right? If a lighthouse dims its light, most boats will never find the shore. And so you can't dim your light. You got to keep shining bright. Transformation belongs to them, and it's your job to take it. So as I was reading this book and kind of coming up with metaphors for this one stumped me for a second, but then it just all unlocked and it clicked, and this one's really cool. This is different from winning because you are not going and taking someone else's fat loss from them and giving it to yourself, right? And that's because the competition really is against yourself. Whereas in sports, you are competing against someone else. There is a winner and there is a loser. So this is different from winning because your own transformation does not come at the expense of someone else. It is truly a competition against yourself. However, living through someone else doesn't mean that you changed. And this is what took my head a little bit of time to wrap around, but as soon as I did, I was like, wow, this happens all the time. This is a mistake that so many people make. Seeing someone else transform gives you that good feeling that you're transforming. We go and see a movie where the hero saves the day, slays the monster, defeats the bad guy, whatever it is, and we walk out all pumped, like, oh yeah, I did that. Because our brain can't tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So if your best friend loses 50 pounds, that's their transformation, not yours. If someone creates a successful business, that's their money, not yours. If someone gets into a really good relationship, that's their relationship, not yours. So you have to go and take the transformation. You have to go and make the change. It's not going to be given to you, right? And I think that's the big one is when I reread transformation belongs to them and it's your job to take it, right? In the book, it's winning belongs to them and it's your job to take it, right? You have to go and get what you want. And if you want to go and make a change, you got to go and get what you want and not just read good, personal development books, listen to podcasts, but not go and do anything. At the end of the day, it belongs to you if you're willing to go and take it, and that's your job. Next one, transformation wants all of you. There is no balance. And so let me reframe this a little bit. Everyone wants to think of balance as 50-50. And if you can wrap your head around this will save you a lot of trouble in life because whether it's work-life balance, balance in relationships, balance in health and fitness and business, whatever it is not 50-50. It will never be 50-50. You are running into big problems if you make it 50-50. Just because you ate good for a week does not mean that you need to reward yourself on the weekend. That's 5 out of 7. That is 71%. That is a C minus. If you wonder why you have a C minus body, it's because you're putting in a C minus effort. Sorry, just simple math. 5 divided by 7 is 71%. It is the same concept when we look at balance that a ton of bricks and a ton of feathers is. I don't know how many bricks or how many feathers that is, but it is in quantity very disproportional. In weight, because it is a ton and a ton, then you have balance there. So the daily effort is going to weigh far less than the weight of things that can cause you to come crashing down. Think about this. How long does it take you to make $1,000, $10,000, $100,000? Now think, how quickly can you spend that money? It is literally 1/1000th of a second. You can go and hit 4 clicks on the website and you've spent that money, and you can go and compare it to all the time it takes for you to get that, all the time it takes for you to make that money. And so you got to recognize that it is the quality of the vacation. It is the quality of the night out. It is the quality of the event, the date night, not the volume. Work-life balance doesn't mean that you work 3 days and you get 3 days off, or 4 and 3, whatever it is. It means that you are 100% present when you're working and you're 100% present when you're doing whatever it is when you're off work. One last metaphor that might help this kind of come home for you. If you're on a date or you're with your partner, They will appreciate you being 100% present for 30 minutes much more than hanging out for 10 hours and being on your phone and being distracted for all 10 of those hours. Quality, not quantity, is going to lead to that balance. Transformation is selfish. This is the next one. So when was the last time you put yourself first? Seriously, when was the last time you're like, I'm not getting looped into anyone else's agenda. I'm going to set boundaries and I'm going to do what it is that is best for me. All right? For a lot of people, that rarely happens. And if it does happen, it's once a month. And what's funny is that we will bend over backwards for other people. We will bend over backwards for our dog. You'll wake up at 6 a.m. to take your dogs out. But you won't wake up at 6 a.m. for yourself. You will sacrifice your time, your money, your health for someone that doesn't even respect your boundaries. There's no shortage of people that will loop you into their agenda. And you cannot make a transformation if you don't make a physical, mental, and spiritual health, your physical, mental, and spiritual health, your number one priority, right? Because it takes so much effort to go and break through that resistance. If it is your sixth priority, you don't have enough oomph to get through that door. And for those of you who are givers, I would put myself in this category. I've struggled my entire life with wanting to relate to people, with wanting to fit in, with wanting to be accepted. I completely get where you're coming from. You want to help. You want to feel important. You want to feel accepted. You do not want to feel rejected. But you got to stop rejecting yourself. You got to stop rejecting what you want. You got to stop rejecting what you need, because you can't save someone that is drowning if your boat has a massive hole in it. So if you aren't practicing relentless self-care, you're giving everyone your JV self, not even your varsity self, not even your, college athlete self, not even your pro self, your JV self, right? That was when you're like 15 years old and were terrible. You're giving people your terrible self, 60% self, right? I don't need to hammer that home anymore. Stop doing it. The next one, transformation takes you through hell. And if you quit, that's where you'll stay. So this one is personal to me because this is the reason for the podcast, the reason for what was initially Down Dog Athletics, the reason why I do what I do, why I quit Amazon, is because I went through that ultimate hell. I quit my sophomore year at Washington State when I played baseball, and I still have dreams about it. It still makes me emotional. It still bothers me because I quit. I allowed myself to believe a series of lies that just disintegrated everything that I'd worked for. And when you quit, you erode your belief that you can do anything you put your mind to. You crack the foundation of your discipline and self-belief. You start to doubt that any journey is possible or worth it. If you have started or stopped any diets or any workout programs, right, done New Year, New Me, right, New Year's resolution, you know what I'm talking about. You wonder if you'll ever be able to lose the 20 pounds, to be able to get out of pain, to be able to do whatever, because your relationship with yourself has strained. I'll give you an example of this. If you have a parent that says, do not throw rocks at your sister, and you throw rocks at your sister, and they had said, if you throw rocks at your sister, you will be grounded. So you throw a little rock at your sister, sister's crying, your parent doesn't do anything about it, right? So then the next time you go, maybe you steal your sister's toy, and your parents say, don't steal the toy. If you steal the toy, you're going to put you in timeout. You steal the toy, sister's crying, nothing happens. Are you going to believe your parent or parents or coach or whoever, the next time they say, don't do this, there will be this repercussion? No, because there hasn't been any follow through. So why would you believe anything that they say, right? If you are dating someone and they say, I'll be there at 7 o'clock, and they show up at 9, date after date after date after date, are you going to believe them on the 4th date? No. So that's what's happening to yourself. This leaves you feeling helpless because you've told yourself that you're going to do it so many times, and so many times you haven't followed through. So then why should you believe yourself the next time you say you're going to go and accomplish anything hard? And this is where this leaves you in hell. It leaves you feeling helpless. And if you stay there long enough, and this is what happens as people get older, they have so many years, so many times of saying they're going to do something, not following through, not continuing to push, and giving up. And eventually, it just becomes too hard for you to fathom. There's no way out of the hell that you're in, and you'll sit in it till the day you die. And that's why this one, I think, is the toughest, because it's where so many people are. So many people don't even think to try or care because they've just... There's a story that I think makes a lot of sense. And I don't know if it's even true, but the story goes along the lines that this baby elephant has a little rope attached around its ankle, and it's anchored in with like a stake, right? And the elephant grows. And as a baby elephant, maybe it can't get away from that stake and that rope, and it pulls and pulls and pulls, and it's like, oh, it just can't get away, right? But then that elephant grows, and it grows, and it grows, and now it's a big-ass elephant. Still the small little tiny stake, small little rope around 1 foot, and it doesn't break away from that stake because it's been taught that if it tries, nothing will happen, right? And I guarantee you there are people listening to this podcast that have given up because they've tried, it didn't work, and now they've come into the situation to where they're doubting their competence, leaving them in a situation where they're frustrated and helpless. And so what's the point? It's not worth it, right? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. And again, that's why I'm so passionate about this one, because the juice isn't worth the squeeze is exactly what I said to my coaches at Washington State when I told them that I was quitting. And man, I was an idiot. The juice is always worth the squeeze. That's good juice, especially if you work hard to squeeze it. Yeah, man. And again, like I said, ultimately, I've made the choice that quitting is going to fuel me. That's why, like I said, you have the podcast, you have the business, you have everything that I have done since I left Amazon. And I've had to do a lot of work to repair that relationship with myself. Just like you might have to do a lot of work with your relationship with your significant other that you've been lying to over and over and over. I've had to do that with myself. That's what the podcast is. When I ran the marathon by myself last summer, that's what that was. That was a big mental thing for me, to where it's like, all right, I'm gonna do something that I said I have no interest in doing. I'm gonna embrace fear and discomfort, and I'm gonna prove to myself that I can say I'm gonna do something, follow through with it, and along with it, hit that goal of sub 3 hours, right? By myself. That's why the last 10 months I spent time doing a program to put 30 pounds on, take 30 pounds off, and completely revamp my physique. And all of this is a process of saying, hey, when you say you're going to do something, you go and do it. Bottom line. Because here's where it gets cool, because now you get to a point to where you say you're going to do something and it's done. It is just a matter of time. You say, I'm going to go climb Mount Everest. It's done. You've made up your mind. And even if you have to spend years figuring it out, you know you're not going to quit. But if you do quit, you will stay in hell. And as uncomfortable as hell is, you will stay there because you believe there is no way out. And that's what transformation is if you quit. Same thing with winning. When you do all the work to try and go win a championship and you quit or come up short, that's the worst. That's the worst. And then you just say it's not worth it. It's always worth it. It's worth it if it is what you truly want. Next one, transformation is a test with no correct answers. Man, this is another one that the fitness industry just butchers. Makes me so mad. They say, hey, here's a diet that we'll just go and apply to 50 million people, as if 50 million people don't have their own individual guts, brains, bodies, history, hormones. It's like, what? People are looking for something that everyone else has, rather than recognizing that you are your own unique individual, and what is going to transform you is going to be completely different than even if you have a twin sitting right next to you, right? So every transformation I've guided someone through is completely different, and every transformation I'll do in the future will have similar elements, but it's going to be completely unique to every single person because everyone has a unique body, unique injuries, unique limbs, unique skill sets, unique life experiences, unique demons, unique things unique hurdles that you got to get over. So just because something worked for your friend doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And I love this one. Transformation, again, in the book, it's winning. Winning is a test with no correct answers, right? You go and win a championship at the professional level, the NBA championship, the Super Bowl. There's no roadmap. You're off-roading the entire time trying to figure it out. And then when you do figure it out, this is from the book, as you're winning and celebrating, winning go and changes the combination to the lock, right? And so it's like what got you there will not get you to that next stage. I love that specific metaphor. But anyway, just because something worked for your friend doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You can't download the answer key. I think back to college. Download the answer key, share it with your friends like you did in college. Just because the answer to question 1 is A for you, it might be D for your friend. It might be G for your other friend. And so you're all looking at the same problem on that test, question number 1. And when you guys go and turn in that test, the correct answer is different for every single test. That's what a physical and mental transformation is. You have to work to find what works for you. And like I said, it might look similar, it might not be far off, but it's its own unique lock. And the next person looking for that transformation is going to have to come up with their own unique set of answers. So we got 4 more. Almost there. Thanks for sticking with me. So transformation knows all your secrets. This one's dirty. Whatever has caused you to fall off the wagon in previous years will return. It is the inevitable part of the hero's journey. It is part of what you got to overcome until you defeat the ultimate boss. And there might be several bosses, which is going to make it harder, that have caused you to restart, that have caused you to fail. Think of like if anyone here plays video games. Hopefully you guys play video games. You die, right? You go and fight this boss, you die, and you're just like, man, I got to figure it out again. I got to try a different technique. I got to try different equipment. I got to figure it out. And until you defeat that boss, it is going to gnaw at you until you either quit or figure it out and defeat him. And we already talked about quitting. That is not an option. You will always be haunted by that demon. And it is waiting around the corner every single time you think you're getting a little bit of momentum. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's Reese's peanut butter cups. Maybe it's a specific exercise that every time you see in your program, you're like, I do not want to do that. That sucks. I hate it. For a lot of people, it's elevated split squats, Bulgarian split squats, whatever you want to call them. People just don't seem to like those. Maybe it's just going to bed and breaking the sleep habit you've had since college. You just stay up till 1 a.m. watching shows. Like that's the demon that you got to go and defeat. That's the boss that you got to go and overcome. Otherwise, you will never make this transformation. So whatever your vices are, you have to go and defeat that ultimate thing before you truly transform. Otherwise, it's going to pull you back down the mountain and you're going to regress back to where you were. You might have lost 30 pounds, but that vice is going to come back up super sneaky, like a sheep or a wolf dressed in sheep's clothes. I'm just making these up as I go. It's gonna get you. It's gonna pull you back down. Next one, transformation never lies, and that's what I love about health and fitness from a development standpoint. Is it's not really an art. If you're trying to get better at dating, or you're trying to build a business, or you're trying to, write a song, right? To a degree, there's like science of that, but there's a lot of luck and timing and things involved. That really doesn't exist to any large extent or long-term extent from a fitness standpoint. You either did all your workouts and pushed yourself with the right intensity for the week, or you didn't. You either ate under maintenance and you're going to lose weight, or you ate at surplus and you're going to gain weight, or vice versa if you're trying to gain weight and you keep eating at a surplus. The science of energy balancing, calories in, calories out, can't argue it. It's scientific principles. It is math. There's no magic or luck involved here. You either got enough sleep or you didn't. You're either really tired or you feel amazing. The body doesn't play a game of chance. It's governed, like I said, by scientific and mathematic principles that apply to everyone. And even if you are a unique person with a unique, disease or injury or whatever, that unique disease is going to still be managed scientifically, not like waving magic wands over you and hoping that, luck happens. And like I said, that's one of the beauties. There's no luck. If you follow the program with enough consistency and effort, even if you don't get there on month 3 or month 6, you're going to get there. It's just a matter of time. And you might feel like you deserve a body based on the work you've done, or you might feel like you deserve, whatever, but ultimately you don't, in a way. Your present situation is an aggregate of the decisions you've made over the course of your entire life. Wherever you're at, you've created that place. Now you have the opportunity to go and create something new, which is also super exciting. And that's the good news. The actions that you are taking today are creating the situation that you want in the future. So in a way, it's like the meat wagon that you're in right now, the mind that you have right now, is almost like on a delay, because it is the product of things you were doing 6 months ago. Whereas what you're doing now, while it might look different, if you are on the path to your transformation, now you're doing the things that the person 6 months, 12 months down the road does. It just hasn't given you a visible representation of that. And I think that's really cool. The next one, transformation is not a marathon. It is a sprint with no finish line. And I totally get what you're thinking. Like, wow, Paul, what are you saying? I thought fitness is slow and steady and it takes time and it's a journey and a process. It is. And I get where you're confused. And this is one that initially I was confused on, but then when I spun it, look at a different perspective, it actually makes a ton of sense. Because this is 100% correct. You can't do 90 workouts in a day and have a 90-day transformation. We're all on the same page there. But the effort in a transformation isn't a slow and methodical effort. It's not like you're just constantly going at 60%. The effort of a transformation is 100% a sprint. It's a treadmill that you sprint on for 30 seconds, then you rest, and you wait for the next sprint. Transformation is an act of aggressive patience. When the opportunity comes to make a meal choice, you give your best effort in that short period of time that it takes to make a decision and see that decision through. When it's time for a workout, you give your best in that 1 hour, and the other 23 hours you rest, right? So if you look at sprints and the sprint to rest ratio, 1 to 23 is a lot more in line than just continually going like you would in a marathon. So think of like a snake or a moray eel or a fish or something that just strikes in the blink of an eye. It is waiting patiently for the little prey to waltz by, and then it goes boom, gets it, and then it's chilling. It's waiting for the next opportunity. And that's why I actually really agree that it is a sprint. There's rest periods in between, but when it is time for you to go, boom, you go. You don't like marathon into it. Don't get me wrong, marathon's tough, but we're talking about like the intensity of it right now. And the other part of it is there is no finish line, because every transformation is a circle. Think of the circle of life. Once you complete it, it starts back over and you're on the next journey. And really, the finish line is death, for lack of a better term. When you die, then you can stop adhering to the principles of the universe. Next one, and this is the last one. This one's great. I love this one. Transformation is everything. Like I said, there is a universal law that life is either growing or dying, right? You're not just maintaining, and don't get this confused with maybe a maintenance phase. You still have to put forth effort to be maintaining there. You don't ever just stop. Like, that's the thing. As soon as you stop, you are regressing. You are dying. Every action has a cost. Inaction is probably the most costly, because you are dying, you're regressing, you're slowing down, things are passing you by. And so your decision to quit or stop playing the game is a decision to slide further down the food chain, where eventually a big problem is going to come and gobble you up. And it may not gobble you up to the sense that you die, but it's going to gobble you up and put you in a real tough spot. Ultimately, transformation is evolution. Evolution is adaptation, and you either adapt or you die. Every single planet, every single animal adheres to this. Humans luckily have phones and Uber Eats and stuff, so we're able to get around it to a degree. But if you're not growing, you're dying. And that's the last thing I'll say, is you adapt or you die, but life is a gift. This is the simple opportunity to be alive is a gift. Every single day on this earth is a gift. It is so cool. If you're listening to this, it's a gift. You've got internet, you've got Wi-Fi, and this gets into gratitude. But that's why transformation is everything, because life is everything, and living life to the fullest is everything. And so when we go and look at all these definitions of transformation, ultimately, I'm glad that it lands there, because in the book, winning is everything. And if you're an athlete and you're not winning, what are you doing? And from a health and fitness standpoint and life standpoint, if you're not growing and adapting and getting better and pushing, you're getting pushed upon and you're accelerating your descent, right? And like I said earlier on the podcast, this is, for some people, maybe intense. This is maybe challenging them. This is maybe making you feel uncomfortable. But one of the things that I heard on a podcast the other day that I love is that in conflict resolution, and you and I, especially if you're listening to this podcast now at almost 42 minutes in, you and I are not in a fight. You're probably to some degree inspired, to some degree thinking about things, but in conflict resolution, you take the perspective that you are wrong and the other person is right. I'm not saying take the perspective that I'm right and you're wrong necessarily, but just try and think, like, what if the opposite was true? What if this belief that I've held on to for years and years and years and years actually isn't serving me and it's holding me back? What if that, like, just crazy chance, crazy possibility, what if that is actually the case? What if that's the reason why I haven't made the changes that I want to make, right? Because we'll hold on to the story so long, so hard. So if you're listening to this and you either feel kind of like uncomfortable, that's really pressure internally trying to get you to go and make a change. But if you're just going to sit on it and think about it, that is ultimately what I was talking about earlier, where that flight or flight situation, to move out of an uncomfortable situation, gets triggered, and you think about it, you don't do anything. That obviously is not what leads to transformation. So two last things I'll say for this podcast. One, if you want to join a group of former athletes, athletic-minded individuals, and this is August 9th, this podcast comes out. So over the next 3 weeks, I'll be teaching a lot of concepts, principles, tools, things that you can use that will catapult you to your transformation, things that I've used, things that I had clients use. So you can click the link in the show notes and join that, and we'll let you in. And if you're like, screw that, like, I want to start right freaking now, I need to get on my shit, right? There's also going to be a link in the show notes just to schedule a conversation in which we can talk about what your big blockers are, and ultimately, if you are ready to make a change, willing to make a change, or if you're okay staying where you're at. Because like I said, every action has a cost, including inaction. That is it for today's Mindful Muscle podcast. Thank you for listening. If you leave a 5-star rating, a review, share it with a friend. Oh man, I'd love that. I'd love you. So I'd appreciate that if you did. If you didn't, no worries. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I'll catch you guys next time on the Mindful Muscle podcast.